Unlikely lines from a war movie.
It is better to die on your feet than live on your knees. Anyway, enough about that Talisa video. In the Marines, our motto is, no one gets left behind. Private Cameron, where is your daughter?
Unlikely things to read on a health insurance form.
Are you the only black guy in a horror film? What's your blood type? You can do 50 words a minute, innit, bruv?
Unlikely things to hear in a maternity ward.
Bad news, I'm afraid. He's ginger. Your Highness. No, I do like it, darling. Just not in that colour.
Unlikely things to hear on a property show.
And more information on how to get together a deposit for a house can be found in our free leaflet, When Will Nana Die? We're looking at a well-equipped council house in Hull. Fridge, oven, washing machine. In fact, this is one of the nicest gardens we've seen.
Unlikely things for a sports commentator to say.
Tragedy strikes the Winter Olympics as the ski jumping is accidentally held next to a clay pigeon shoot. And that's an incredible right hook there from Abu Hamza. And Serena Williams remains unseeded for a second year. I can't help thinking that a bit of lippy and a push-up bra...
Bad things to say at a job interview.
So I'm just checking. You definitely don't do a CRB check. You've demonstrated a bad attitude, an inability to listen, and a complete lack of interest in others. Welcome to Ryanair's customer service team.
Things you wouldn't hear on a science documentary.
Weren't D-Ream shit?
Unlikely things to hear on radio.
You're listening to Radio 3. Anyone? 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 Bueller? Next up on Radio 1, Nick Grimshaw. He's not very good, but he's only 28, so he definitely didn't get up to anything in the 1970s.
Unlikely things for a vet to say.
No, I'm afraid Timmy won't be coming out of hibernation soon, and that's because he's not actually a tortoise, he's a Fray Bentos pie. Mr. Johnson, you spoil that dog. Not only are you overfeeding him, but he's quite capable of licking his own balls.
Commercials that never made it to air.
Condoms, because if she'd sleep with you, she'd sleep with anyone. Maybe she's born with it, in which case I probably shouldn't take the piss. Lidl, because life didn't work out as you planned.
Unlikely things for a sports commentator to say.
And that's an unfortunate wardrobe malfunction for the Ukrainian women shot putter there as a bollock pops out. And Tiger Woods is going for his third hole of the afternoon. Surely by now he should have left the hotel.
Unlikely lines from a romantic novel.
Romeo, 5-5, Alpha Zulu Tango, Grey Skoda Octavia, last seen heading towards M6.
Things you wouldn't hear on a DIY show.
I'm Nick Knowles, and no matter how many DIY programmes I make, I'll never be as famous as my sister Beyoncé. This week, John from Peterborough successfully put a roll of wallpaper up himself, so we're taking him to hospital.
Things you won't hear at the World Cup.
And now our cameraman is going to pick out some of the plainer girls in the crowd. And that's a very soft tackle, as Pele hasn't taken his tablets yet.
Unlikely things to hear on a cookery programme.
No, I'm afraid those aren't bacon bits. I've just got a bit of eczema at the moment. We'd like to apologise for the misprint in this week's Radio Times. Paul Hollywood is, in fact, a massive cook.
Unlikely things to hear at the dentist.
Welcome to Dick Van Dyke, the dentist. I'm afraid it's worse than bad breath. You've got supercalifragilistic extreme halitosis. No, don't worry. That's not the sound of the drill. It's just that my receptionist's a scouser. This is most unusual, madam. You don't seem to have any teeth at all. What's that? You're here for a smear test? That's next door.
OK, the next topic is... Unlikely lines from a children's book.
You do not like green eggs and ham? Well, tough. This is a Weatherspoons. Spot wondered why he'd been placed into the sack with the brick. But either way, this was going to be the best trip to the canal ever.
Unlikely small ads.
For sale, engagement ring, never used, would suit heartless bitch. After leaving an abusive relationship, I'm looking for a fresh start. Contact Scotland. Correction. Last week's notice was mistakenly placed in the Men Seeking Men column, but actually, I am genuinely seeking someone to demolish my back entrance.
Unlikely lines from a superhero movie.
Oh, my God, there's a coach full of children about to fall off a bridge on the M40. Still, not to worry, I can take the M1 instead. Of all the mutants, Magneto was the hardest to deal with, as he was bipolar.
Unlikely lines from a romantic novel.
I want your breasts, your legs, your thighs. I'm on the phone to Nando's, love. What do you want? They gazed into each other's eyes, and their thoughts were so in tune. They both thought the exact same thing. You'll do. As Mr. Darcy kissed her neck, she flushed angrily. Get out! I'm having a shit!
Unlikely things to hear at an award show.
Sadly, he can't be with us tonight, so to collect the award on his behalf, Chief Inspector Harris of Operation U-Tree.
Unlikely film trailers.
All your favourite administrators are back in Human Resources 2. This time it's personnel. It was a love story that crossed the species barrier. He was a man, she was a cow. Coming soon, Beef Encounter.
Things you wouldn't hear on the radio.
Travel news. A coachload of origami enthusiasts has broken down on the M1, and they're all currently sat on the hard shoulder making paper models of cars. Traffic is described as stationary. This is local radio. It's 4 a.m. and no one's listening. Let's play Say Something Racist Roulette.
Unlikely things to hear on a consumer programme.
Dear Anne, the other day I was changing my baby's nappy and he weed right in my face. Does this mean I can make a PPI claim? Critics say Botox is too expensive, but we spoke to 50 people who'd just paid for the treatment and none of them looked surprised. Dear Watchdog, I bought these pork scratchings, but they all taste a bit David Cameron-y.
Lines you wouldn't hear in a kid's film.
But why are we going this way, said Bilbo. Well, said Gandalf, we've got to find some way of stretching this shit to 3 films. Here comes Captain Hook, who turned to piracy after his benefits were stopped. Half grizzly bear and half buffalo. The Gruffalo was the biggest, scariest animal in the whole wood, until one day he got a job presenting Mock the Week.
Commercials that never made it to air.
Megabus, the only bus company endorsed by Dara O'Brien. Tesco penis extensions. Because every little helps. Uncle Tom's rice, like Uncle Ben's, but a bit more racist.
Unlikely things to hear in hospital.
And your cancer specialist today is Noel Edmonds. The good news is your father is comfortable. In fact, I've been sitting on him all morning.
Unlikely film trailers.
Thanks to an unfortunate typo, it's the most one-sided action film ever. Allen versus Predator. 50 Shades of Grey. The heartwarming story of a vajazzler in an old folks' home. Harrison Ford is 73 and he's back in Indiana Jones and the Tricky Patch of Ice outside the post office.
Unlikely things to hear on a makeover show.
Mrs. Patterson says her downstairs is a little damp. Don't worry, Alan Titchmarsh has that effect on a lot of women your age. I showed this couple from Sussex a delightful little semi earlier and said if they touch it, I'll do up their house.
Things you'd never read in the Bible.
And after the Last Supper came the last argument about who had a starter. People who enjoyed this book also enjoyed the Quran and the Torah.
Lines you wouldn't hear in a James Bond film.
Ah, Mr. Bond. Welcome to this mandatory course on sexual harassment in the workplace. Mr. Bond, I have one question for you. Does this testicle look swollen? This is the easiest fight on top of a train I've ever had. Thank you, Southern Rail.
Unlikely things to hear on the radio.
Oh, me hip. Isn't it cold? Aren't the police younger than they used to be? You're listening to Sounds of the 70s. 3 dads, but who will get the kidney transplant? Welcome to Pick of the Pops. And now the shipping news. Your parcel has been dispatched.
Bad things to hear during a medical exam.
And if I can just insert this end of the camera into your colon, and that should hold it steady while I take a selfie. Well, the bad news is you're going to have to take one of these tablets every day for the rest of your life. The really bad news is I'm only giving you 3.
Unlikely things for a continuity announcer to say.
Up next, The Walking Dead. Oh, sorry, Songs of Praise. Up next on Naked Attraction, a man who's going to spend the next 3 years telling his friends it was a lot colder than it looked in the studio. Next up, the 40-year-old virgin. Oh, sorry, Robot Wars.
The next topic is things a news reporter would never say.
Irma has been blowing all over the city for 2 days now. But enough about your mum. Here's the weather. It's now been 4 days since Piers Morgan went missing. The police have appealed for anyone with information on his whereabouts to please, please, please keep it to themselves.